Hello, friends. I'm Beverly McManus. I'm coming to you from Franklin, Tennessee, where I have a private practice, and wanted to talk to you a little bit today about emotions and how they affect behaviors and decisions. And I think it's really important for us to notice the story that we tell ourselves about experiences that we have. So, how I relate what has happened, uh, things that happen around me in my circle of influence, among my family members, in my friend groups, things that happen, I will then tell myself a story about that. And usually I connect that to a previous story. So let's say one of the things I say to myself in my self-talk is that I don't fit in. So maybe I experienced that in childhood, didn't fit in, and then in my adult life, there are groups that I don't fit in. So I connect the two and have this self-talk to myself that says I don't fit in. That story shapes my reaction to many situations. That story may not be true because everything I think is not true, but it's a frame of reference that I use for social situations to gauge whether I'm accepted or I'm rejected. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that in those situations that I feel rejection, that it was an intended rejection. That may be coming from my frame of reference and my level of sensitivity, that I may infer that from a situation, but it may not necessarily mean that it was intended or that I am being rejected. It is how I feel. So a lot of times whenever we have several situations that have made us feel a similar way, we start telling ourselves a story that may not be true. Such as I'm rejected or I don't fit in. That probably isn't true. It's probably my connection of how I feel, based on how I feel people received me or how they reacted when I approached them. So I connect facts and information based on what I may have experienced in 5th grade or in 7th grade or in 10th grade or some point in my life, feeling some sense of rejection and lack of acceptance. So then I internalize that I was rejected in a social circle or in a friend group. So it's important to know and notice the thoughts and the stories and the emotions that we have about what's going on around us, because that helps us decide whether we are being honest with ourselves or we're entertaining theories that are not true at all. You are not your emotion. So sometimes what we will say is, I'm alone. That would imply that my identity is aloneness, isolation, which may be a little more true now than usual. But that's not my identity. My identity is all the facets of my personality, all the facets of my life. When I say I am alone, I am sad, I am depressed, which are a lot of emotions that are really common right now, and that over-identification with sadness or depression tends to align my identity with that word, and now I'm overstimulated by the word sadness, depression, isolation, and I see myself as that word, whatever that is, fill in the blank. So instead of saying I am sad or I am depressed, what I might say is I'm experiencing sadness. That's not saying that it's who I am. It's my identity. That would over-identify with something that's sad or negative. So instead of saying I'm depressed, we might distance ourselves from it a little bit and say, I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling symptoms of depression. Um, because often we have symptoms of depression, that doesn't mean we are clinically depressed. So when we distance ourselves from the negativity, then we can manage the feelings that go along with that a little bit easier. So distancing a little bit from saying that that is who you are or what you are, the label that you over identify with, distancing yourself a little bit from that so you can then manage the feelings that come out of that. And that helps you have a better self-talk, a more positive self-talk. Now I can manage the feelings that come up whenever I feel isolated, alone, whenever I feel depressed, when I feel sad, when I feel like I don't fit in, whatever it is that you're experiencing. The emotions are not good or bad. The emotions just are. If I'm feeling sad, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing. If I'm going through grief and I'm feeling sadness, then that's my cue to work on some of the emotions that I'm feeling, some of the emotions of grief. That's not a negative thing. It may not be my favorite thing, and it may be really difficult, and it is really difficult. It's a hard work, but it doesn't mean it's a negative emotion, because if I'm feeling sadness and I'm going through grief, it's just a red flag that there's emotions that need attention. It's a red flag that there's some emotions that I need to attend to, that I need to spend some time thinking about, that perhaps I need to journal about some of those emotions so that I can process them, give myself space and time to feel those emotions, to experience what they feel like, then distance myself from them by saying, I have some of these feelings. Today, I have had feelings of depression. I think it's also important to teach our children to be able to label their emotions, because a lot of times we react in anger when we really feel overwhelmed, or we feel fear, or we feel maybe some anxiety, and it comes out as anger or frustration. And studies tell us that the earlier children can start labeling their feelings, the healthier their self-concept will be, the healthier their self-talk will be. So as adults, we also need to work on that, where we're able to label what we're feeling. Our expression, our emotional reaction isn't always the real feeling. I may react in anger, but what I really feel is sadness, or what I really feel is grief, or what I really feel is alone. So being able to label what it is I'm really experiencing helps me work toward the healing of that emotion. So emotions are not good or bad. They feel bad sometimes, but they're really just signposts for what needs attention, what needs work. So anyway, I hope that is helpful to you today. I hope that I shared some things that will help you in your self-concept and your thoughts about yourself, the stories that you tell yourself. I hope you're able to do some introspection, possibly some journaling about some of your feelings and emotions, and that you don't become paralyzed by them or over-identify with them. And God bless you and keep you in His care.